Welcome to Pro School number 11. Today we are going over ProLine's multi-location functionality, the ability to manage multiple different locations. I'm going to make sure this mic is in place. Let me make sure my audio is good. Yeah, okay, so we're good to go there. All right, so and specifically what we're referring to here is this ability to switch different locations. Now, if you're a single location business, this is not going to be relevant for you. But if you have either multiple Google My Business locations in a single market or multiple markets that you're operating in, this is where ProLine's multi-location functionality comes into play. Let's go over, first we're going to talk about what features and functionality are connected to this multi-location feature set. And then we're going to talk about the different use cases for it, when you need it, when you don't need it. So let's first go over kind of the overall function and how it works. So if you go into your company settings in ProLine and go to locations, you can add any number of locations here that you need for your business. Now, these are billed. There's a cost associated with adding additional locations to your ProLine account. So that is something to keep in mind. And that's really going to be a factor when deciding how many of these you actually want, whether or not you need them for every Google My Business location. But you can add these multiple locations here. You have names for each location, and then you would have an address that's associated, a specific address associated with each one. Each location, and this is really the first reason we created this location feature, was to be able to have different review request URLs depending on where a project is located. So being able to route them to a specific Google My Business profile. And so you can see here that there is a review request URL underneath this location, and this other location has a different URL here. Of course, we're just using Google here in this demo, but you would put your Google My Business or Facebook review page in this area here. Then once you have these locations inputted here, ProLine is going to dynamically pull the right URL and use the right landing page, review landing page, depending on which location a project is associated with. So if you've got a project details here, whatever location is selected here, that determines which review URL is going to get used in any review request campaigns that go out to your customers to request reviews and or referrals. Now, a big part of this feature and how we built it is how ProLine automatically assigns projects based on their location. So if I go in, I'm going to find, let me just go to Athens, Georgia. I'm going to get a residential address here in Athens, Georgia. So we're going to choose this right here. Select this. Okay, so we're just going to select that. And then if we go in to create a new project, it is defaulted here to Atlanta. But if I start typing in an address here, we can auto-complete this. We select that. If we scroll up, we're going to see that ProLine has automatically selected the Athens location because this is a local Athens address. And this address is closer to the Athens location than it is to the Atlanta one. Now, you as the ProLine user have some control here. If you need to change this back to Atlanta for some reason, you want to put this under the Atlanta location, even though it's an Athens address, you do have the ability to make that change. But ProLine automatically does choose the right location based on whether or not or where that street address is located. Now, this doesn't just work for manually created projects. This also works for any projects that come through any integrations or speed to lead sources. So anytime you're inputting a project, anytime a project gets added to ProLine, ProLine is running a quick check to see if you have more than one location, and if so, which location is the closest location to that address. Now, once there's a few other sort of benefits to having this location functionality, and one of the biggest ones is being able to narrow in on a specific location and see only projects for that location. So this is really valuable, especially from an owner standpoint. You want to see how a specific location is doing. Or if you're a sales rep and you work at one of these locations, really having that narrow focus of, okay, here's what's going on at my location and not getting overwhelmed with seeing stuff from other locations. Now, that also is not necessarily as relevant. If you're a sales rep, a lot of times you're only going to see here projects that are assigned to you to begin with, so it may not be an issue. But maybe if you're a manager or if you're a sales rep that has access to more to more than just their own projects, then having that ability to filter down into specific locations is valuable. Now, in addition to that, if you go to the business report page, you can also filter by location here as well. So if you want to see how a specific location is doing from a sales and from the numbers standpoint, you can do that easily here as well. And then when you're sorting through projects here on the project list page for doing bulk changes, you can filter by location there, as well as, I'm trying to think if we added it here. Yeah, so project location. So you can, here on the contact list page, which we will eventually have the ability to run marketing campaigns here in addition to the more sales oriented campaigns. You can also filter by location here as well. Yeah, so that pretty much sums up how that project or how that multi-location functionality works and the value of it, which is that ability to sort and organize, and then also to dynamically insert the right review link depending on where a project is located. Now let's talk about the reasons why you would or would not want to use this multi-location feature. So let's think of a situation which is pretty common where you have a single market, but you might have 2 or maybe even 3 different Google My Business locations within that single market. You definitely could, if you wanted to, use ProLine's multi-location functionality, and no problem with that at all. The only sort of drawback is we do charge either $297 or $267 a month with the yearly commitment per location that you're using ProLine for. So it may not make sense if you're just using some extra Google My Business locations for marketing purposes to actually have all of those listed as locations in your ProLine account. That may be a little bit too much. Also, if you have sales reps and they're not tied to a specific location, they're sort of bouncing around in a single market, then that also could get a little bit confusing, having different projects assigned to different locations based on how close they are to them. So if you have locations that are too close together, it might not work as well as quite how it might be expected to work. Now, the ideal situation, or the situation we really created this for, was when you actually have different markets. So you have locations in different markets with maybe even entirely different teams working them. So John's business, Delory Roofing, has a location in Athens, Georgia, and then a location about 4 hours away in Savannah, Georgia. Those are 2 different markets, 2 different locations, and they have a Google My Business in each location. But this is what this feature was built for, is managing those different locations and keeping those projects separated without actually having to have 2 different ProLine accounts. So you still have that everything under one roof, but the ability to separate and sort easily based on location. And that pretty much sums it up. And so we'll wrap up here.